Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Left Right. Tom McLaughlin, Lovell, Maine. Gino Funicello, Jackson, New Hampshire. We've got kind of a full show today because a lot of things have been going on. A lot of things have been going on, and we had breakfast already, and we're still thinking and talking about some of this stuff. But whilst we were waiting for the cameras to come on, the top management came in with our question to lead off the show with. Wait a minute, it's a blank page. Oh no, there it is.
Which we haven't seen before. We have been prepared for.
We don't prepare for any of this.
I
hope this is
off the cuff.
With John Bolton. I even hate using the name. John Bolton taking over as National Security Advisor. Do you think the chances of a war with Iran have increased, given Bolton's previous comments about bombing Iran?
Do
you think
the short answer is no? I don't. I think the chances of war with Iran, by the United States versus Iran, no, I don't. I do believe, however, that he will get tougher. He is a very hard-nosed. He is a hawk. He believes that if we do have this arsenal, I won't say let's use it, but use it meaning actually go bang bang with it, but let's use it to influence. War is an instrument of politics. It's the ultimate instrument of politics. It's the one of politics of last resort, and that's why all countries have militaries, because you have to be prepared for a war. But knowing that we do, it's one thing to have a war, a military, but if you have somebody in charge who's unwilling to use it, you might as well not have it. And Bolton sees it that way. He has extensive experience in foreign policy, and he believes that if you have that military, let the potential enemies know that yes, I am willing to use it if necessary, to prevent something from happening or to cause something to happen or some combination. And he will use it in that way.
Well, I think John Bolton may be a bad choice. The thing of it is, I think that Mr. Trump doesn't take advice anyway, so unless he agrees with the preconceived notion that he wants to go to war himself, then Bolton's conversation will have no meaning with him whatsoever. John Bolton has always, in the past, talked about nuking North Korea and nuking Iran. The only problem is that
North Korea attacking them, but I don't think he specifically said using nuclear weapons in the attack.
I think he did, yeah.
I missed that.
Back a ways. But I mean, I could be wrong. No, it was nuking, because you can't go in there on foot. You don't go to North Korea on foot anymore.
No, but we have we have missiles and bombs.
We got our butts kicked the last time we were there, and that's why the 38th parallel is where Panmunjom was, because we went all the way to the Yellow River, which is way up in North Korea, on the China border, and President Truman, who I have some respect for.
Do you think Bolton is going to increase the chances of the U.S. fighting Iran is the question?
I don't think so, because I'll tell you one reason I think is because China has such an involvement in Iran now, militarily, money-wise, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think we're going to step on China's toes by taking away one of their allies their big ally in the Middle East, and I don't think we'll do it. But boy, I think he's got a hair trigger, Bolton. They say he's very bright. I don't know.
I met him once.
Huh? Did you?
Yeah. He was, it was my first trip to Washington for a conservative convention. This was by National Review, and it was in 2007. And it was, the Republicans had just gotten clobbered in the 2006 congressional elections.
Yes.
And it was called the Conservative Summit. What do we do now? And I liked it. Anyway, we were having they would feed us dinner.
Yeah.
It was a fairly small, probably about 1,000 people or fewer at the whole convention. And so
he spoke.
No, he was standing at the bar. They had this portable bar in a function room. He was standing all by himself,
Yeah.
I got in there early. I saw him because he's very characteristic
He's got
looking
the
with
little
that
white
mustache.
mustache,
And
yeah.
he was the UN ambassador at the time in the Bush administration, and I liked what he did. I think he forcefully represented the United States there. He spoke plainly. He made waves, and I really admired that. So there he is standing there by himself. So I just went over and introduced myself and told him I think he did a good job, and we chatted a little bit, and that's all. But it was very
Funny
nice
thing
guy.
about John Bolton is his own party didn't vote for him for UN ambassador. It had to be a recess appointment.
I don't know.
Yeah, they turned him down. Republicans voted against him.
I think that I don't
'cause it
think
was
they voted
04.
against him, but it looked like they were going to, and they weren't going
He didn't bring him in.
be approved by
Yeah,
the Senate.
He had to do it on a recess appointment.
He did.
Because
Yeah,
everybody
that
in the
is
world
true.
was afraid of John Bolton. I mean, now he's going to bring him back, and there's a good chance he won't get approved by the Senate this time because
doesn't have to
McCain. Oh, he doesn't.
No.
That's right.
No.
That's right. They were
National
talking
Security
about the guy
Advisor.
for the
Serves at the pleasure of the president only.
yeah. They were talking about Secretary of State.
Yes, he was considered for
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So but the Secretary of State might have a problem. The guy, what's his name?
I think they see Pompeo
Pompeo.
is
trying
subject to
Yeah.
confirmation by the Senate, and it's they think it's going to happen, but they're going to give him a hard time.
I think
Pompeo's a good man. and
McCain.
he sees things pretty similarly to
Oh yeah,
Bolton.
yeah. Well, we've got a very conservative, I would say extreme Republican group at the top now, and if these guys don't take a hand in it and take a
do you
little bit
mean
of
by that?
control, well, I just think that it's very Bolton is very, he's always been considered an extremist, neocon. He still thinks that Iraq was a great idea, even though there were no weapons of mass destruction. It was a great idea to get rid of Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein, as I've said many times, was the glue that helped those maniacs
But when you say
stick
extreme
together.
Republican, what do you mean?
I mean that he still thinks that Iraq, say, is extreme. It's an extreme opinion. He's on the far right fringe when you think that Iraq was still a good deal.
Okay.
Our company is going down a toilet.
Okay, so Bolton thinks that, but when
Yeah.
you say we have extreme Republicans running, surrounding Trump, who are the others?
Oh, the other guy, Pompeo, is a very conservative extreme. He's on the extreme. Yeah, he's on the far right. I mean, he's not, if I were to say middle of the road, would probably be somebody else, but he doesn't have many people left in Washington.
You mean there are no doves?
They're all gone. There's like 50 people that are gone in the last 2 months. I don't know who's still there. Do you have any idea who's still in Washington guiding him?
I think Mattis has a big influence on
Kelly.
him. I think Kelly
and
has.
Matt, they're the last two.
Who else has? Well,
Yeah, keep going.
I'm really not sure. at
Who
this
are his
point. I mean,
lawyers?
is that are you talking with foreign policy? Is that?
Well, I think the whole bag.
The whole
I
bag.
I don't know. Well, the other day he says, "I'm not going to sign this tax bill, this bill." Bang! He comes back and he'd sign. I mean, it's like, well, when are you serious, Donald? What's your serious part of you? What do we agree on? I mean, your wife won't even hold hands with you coming down a plane anymore. Who's in favor of Donald in the White
Your wife
House?
won't hold hands with you.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like, what's going on there? You can't even name the people. You got Mattis and you got Kelly. Kelly's been
Who are
on the outs.
His advisors. you mean?
Yeah. I mean, you've got the late. Oh, look at it. Look at his cabinet.
Got Larry Kudlow.
You got Perdue, the chicken guy.
Perdue.
Perdue, the chicken guy, is in his cabinet.
Oh, what?
Yes.
What position?
Secretary of Agriculture or something. Yes. And you got the guy that wanted to do away with the EPA, running the EPA.
Pruitt.
You got the lady that want to do away with public schools, and she's running the schools.
Doesn't want to do away with them.
You
Wants
got the-
to provide choice. She's
You got the-
pro-choice.
Yeah,
Isn't that good?
yeah.
The Democrats
You got
like
the
pro-choice?
the guy running HUD, who was a brain surgeon, who buys $51,000 tables for his office. 32,000. I mean, these are the people that are advising him. And they're also the people that, if I had to tell you, you didn't see it, but I watched it, they all stood up. They didn't even stand up. They sat up and they agreed that he was the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln.
Who was?
Trump.
Oh, well,
His
they're entitled to
inkwell
their
wasn't
opinion.
even empty yet, huh?
They're entitled to their opinion. I
But
will
these are the
agree-
people you're talking about helping him.
I will agree with you when you say that this last budget deal, they shouldn't even call it a budget deal because
Trillion.
what we haven't really used a budgetary process. It's over $1 trillion, 1.2,
1.3 trillion.
It's, as I've said before on this program, that my biggest objection to Donald Trump policy-wise is that he doesn't address that deficit spending and our national debt, which I really think is the biggest problem facing the United States, the biggest single problem facing the United States.
Of course it is.
And he never addressed it while he was campaigning, and he's making it worse. While now that he's been in there for over a year, we can see that. And this last Friday, this deal was made by two Democrats, Pelosi and Schumer, and two Republicans, Ryan and McConnell. Those four people alone got together and decided under a gun, the government's going to shut down if you don't come up with a deal.
And they were going on a vacation.
By midnight on Friday night, and we're about to go out on
2 weeks.
for 2 weeks, whatever. And so what's going to be in it? Well, I insist that we have this, and the Republicans say, and we insist that we have that, the Democrats say, and what can we get Trump to sign? And so they're talking to him, how about this package? How about that package? How about this? And finally he says, yeah, okay, I'll sign it. But
they're not never reading.
But then the Republicans, that is the conservatives, I won't say Republicans, because now I have to separate the two.
Right, they broke away.
Conservatives, which I am, and who I listen to and respect, they went nuts. They said, you can't do this because it's deficit. Now we're talking about this huge problem that Trump avoids, this deficit issue. And he better not sign it because it's full of pork. And so he then, I think he was paying attention to them, and he tweeted that I'm thinking about vetoing it that morning, right? So now, is he going to veto it? Is he not going to? He ended up signing it. And he said, I'll never do this again. Well, what's he never going to do again? He's never going to let that process. I hope he didn't get specific, but he said, there's no budget. There's supposed to be a budget that starts in the House of Representatives. It's submitted by the president as the executive, but it must be a bill that is prepared by, all money bills are supposed to constitutionally begin in the House.
Well, they don't do it. They don't do it anymore.
They don't do it, and they haven't done it for about 9 years.
Now, I've been listening to you. We've been on, I don't know, 10, I forget how many years now. And I've been listening to you all the time because our friend, Mr. Obama, was president for 8 of those years. And I listened to you a lot about the deficit. And every week, a couple of weeks we were on, you would come up with a new number, which was a few billion, 100 billion more than it was the last time. And I guess after a while it was up around somewhere 18 or 19 trillion, whatever it is. And I used to watch Fox, and Fox would have the little thing up in the corner, blip it off, They don't do it anymore. They stopped. Now, I don't know, even, do you know what they did?
Stopped? Fox stopped?
Fox. And everybody stopped talking about the number.
Not everybody. Who's talking about it now?
I don't know what it is.
Democrats.
What is it?
Democrats are talking about...
Yeah, but what's the number?
The deficit.
What's the number?
Right now, it's about $21 trillion.
So it was like 17 or 18 when Obama was in.
Just about 20.
You say that, but I don't know. Anyway, so it's gone. No, they've got...
He doubled the debt.
Wait. They gave a $1.7 trillion tax break, right? They gave a $1.3 trillion budget. That's $3 trillion.
No, they didn't give. Oh, you mean this last thing is
month.
really a temporary interim stopgap measure.
Right.
The point is that they're not budgeting. When you budget, you're supposed to submit, just like, you were a selectman, right?
Right.
You had a budget.
Right.
And you had to submit it to town meeting to the voters to approve it. And you had this much for roads and bridges, this much for general assistance, this much for schools, this much for the county, all that, right? And each of them was voted on the floor of town meeting, one at a time. Well, that's pretty much the way the Congress is supposed to do it.
Yeah, but
And then
they're
there's
not doing it.
accountability. Okay, well, did my representative vote for this item in the budget or against it? How about that? That's not
You know
done
that
anymore.
budget
There
they
is
just-
no accountability because you have those four people that I mentioned. They get together behind closed doors and they come
They
up with
hash it
this
out.
thing, and then they give it to the Congress and the Senate to vote on, and they don't have time to read it all. They
Exactly.
don't even know what's in it,
You
and then they
couldn't-
have to
you
vote,
couldn't- I don't
and
think
then the
you-
president signs it. That's not
Tom,
the
you
way
couldn't
to
possibly
govern.
read it. It was, I mean, how many?
It's not the way to govern, is it?
It
Would
was
you agree
bigger
with
than
that?
the Obama health care bill.
Would you agree that that is not the way to
Of
govern?
course not. Of course it's not the
Okay,
way
we
to
agree
do it.
on that.
You know, there were times in our past when they called it pork. They would do a budget. You remember the guy
Accurate
from
term.
Nebraska or something, and it was pork. Somebody would get $38 million to build a bridge to nowhere or something. I think you have a message coming
Oh,
from top
thank you.
management.
Oh,
But I mean, you would,
it's informational.
You-
It's
you would
about-
do- yeah.
Okay, I'll wait till you're done.
You would do that, and you used to laugh about the guy from Nebraska. Oh, they made a deal, and they called it the bill from Nebraska, and they gave
Bill
that guy-
Nelson.
Yeah,
And
I don't-
Senator
No, he's
Nelson.
from Florida, but there was somebody from Nebraska. The Cornhusker deal was something.
Yeah.
It was part of Obama's care.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that was being done. Now, this bill, again,
'Twas ever thus, I think.
is loaded with that stuff. It's loaded with that
It is,
stuff.
yes.
And it's who can I buy to come into this group to vote and give me what I need? The only
Yes.
ones they didn't get probably the very conservative Tea Party people, former Tea Partyists, did not vote
Voted
for
against
this.
it.
But they
The
had enough
Tea-
Democrats and
The
Republicans.
Conservative caucus
Right.
in the House, yes. Representative Jim Jordan of
Oh, that
Ohio.
guy. Well, why doesn't he wear a sport jacket on television? What is he
I like
doing?
that guy very much. The man is votes on principle. I think he's the conscience of the House.
Yeah, he's a con. He didn't say anything bad about Trump's peccadillos, though. He doesn't talk
He
about
said,
that.
"I'm not going to vote for this. This is not what my constituents sent me
Yeah,
to
that's
Washington
true.
to do. I promised I wouldn't vote for this kind of stuff, and I'm not going to." And he didn't.
Well, pretty soon, if we keep talking about budgets, we're going to educate this audience. They'll.
Before you start, there
Oh,
was
we
a
got.
George Irvin Sonny Perdue III,
Right.
born, is
Yeah,
an American
whatever.
politician. Perdue previously was governor of Georgia.
Yeah.
He's not related to the family that owns Purdue Farms.
He's not.
No, that's what it says here.
Maybe he went to Purdue University, but he's on his cabinet. But I mean,
Okay,
that not yeah. I thought
Coincidence.
it was coincidence. Surprised his name wasn't. Well,
I would have
Purdue.
remembered that funny-looking guy. He kind of looked like a chicken.
Yeah,
They
he
sold
did.
it
Yeah,
on
Purdue.
TV.
Yeah, he's dead. He's long
I
dead.
think I'd have remembered that.
He
Go
died in a
ahead.
chicken machine. We should probably go on and move on to some other stuff. huh?
All right. Go
Hey, you
ahead.
know,
you
here's-
want to open it with something? Go ahead.
Well, I don't know how you feel about this. Some of the stuff I was reading earlier, a few weeks ago, it wasn't on a liberal talk show, but it was just a report I was kind of reading, and I took down some notes. Russia, it appears, was cyber targeting our electric system, our nuclear plants, our water systems, and yet during the election process, that's some of the other stuff that was going on, from what I understand.
Well,
Again, we don't really have the facts yet.
Washington Post reported that the Russians were targeting the electrical system in Vermont, and they had to retract it because it wasn't true.
This was a
That much I
national
know.
thing. They said they were doing nationally, that they had the ability and were using it to try to figure out how our electric plants were working, how our nuclear plants were working.
I
Kind of
read
like
that there are vulnerabilities in
the
our electrical
vulnerabilities
grid.
which they
Yes.
showed up. And I don't know, because one of the things that concerned me a lot was a speech that Putin gave. I don't know if we talked about this yet or not. And I couldn't understand why we didn't respond, at least, to him, to what he was doing. He gave a speech in Russia. He was just elected 2 weeks ago.
Allegedly elected, yeah.
Allegedly, yeah. They saw bags of
He won an alleged
votes
election.
being dumped in the thing. He gave a speech in front of a large audience, and he had a big movie screen on the thing, and it showed the new hypersonic, hypersonic, I think they are, special rockets that they claim they have. And they showed them hitting Florida.
Which we have no defense for, he claims.
Yeah, he claims we have no defense, and maybe we don't, who knows. But he showed them hitting a map of Florida, and I thought, for God's sakes, man, and this Mr. Trump, look, put down your pornographic magazines, stop, the internet, get on the damn horn, and tell him that's not kosher.
Well, okay, so
Why didn't he do it?
I read a report that said we have the capability of defending against those kinds of weapons that Putin was referring to. That's all all I know. So I said, okay. I mean, what do I know? I don't understand the missile itself. I don't understand. This is most of our stuff is classified. Even when we vote, there's a lot more military stuff in this so-called budget deal that was passed last week. And what is it going to be spent on? We only know some of the big ticket items, but lots of other stuff. There's a black budget that we just can't know about.
Billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah, so I mean, they say we have the capability. We're ahead of that. We're on it. I just have to take their word for it, I guess.
Well, one of the things
that was done. So what are you saying?
I'm saying it
Trump should have said, Putin, don't talk like that, or what?
Response, like I'd rather you don't on your little films in Moscow. Show your rockets targeting one of our states, particularly a state that I have a big investment in. So, I mean, it would be nice for him to say something like that, even a one-liner. Like, hey, stop the crap, Mr. Putin.
So,
he's not.
President Trump gets criticized a lot for what he says. Now you're saying he should be criticized for what he doesn't say.
If he wakes up in the morning and he sends some days 5, 10, 15 tweets about things he hates, things he doesn't like, just send one about that. That's all. Hey, stop targeting Florida. Target Minnesota. Don't target Florida. I mean, it's very personal. But here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, we have, the amazing thing is, we do have a lot of things that people don't know about, we don't know about. Back in the 1950s, just a quick aside, we had the U-2 plane. Remember the U-2?
I've heard, U-2.
Okay. It flew at about 100,000 feet.
I think it was. And
Francis Gary Powers.
Okay.
Shot down over Russia during Eisenhower's administration.
Okay. Eisenhower said, I don't know who the guy is. That never happened.
The reason they
lied.
The plane crashed, something happened to it. It didn't get shot down.
Yes, it did. It was a Russian missile shot him down.
Okay, so the problem was we couldn't protect it.
We thought that it was above their capabilities,
Right.
but we turned out to be wrong, that they had a capability of shooting it down, because they did.
But within about 2 years, we had a plane called the SR-71, which flew at 125,000 feet. It flew at 6 times the speed of sound, at least. No one's ever released up.
I saw one down in Arizona.
And they can't shoot it. They couldn't shoot it down. We finally retired it because of satellites. We had satellites, we're taking pictures.
So what's the point?
Well, the point is, when they mentioned this in the article I was reading about the supersonic missiles, it said they would travel at 6 times the speed of sound. Well, we had a plane in 1962 that flew at 6 or 7 times the speed of 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times the speed of sound then.
It was probably classified for a long
So,
time before
how
they
Russians
sent
built
it to
things.
Arizona and put it on exhibit.
I would tell Mr. Putin, if I could caution him on that, I would say, look, you've got an airline that loses an average of 3 or 4 airliners a year because they're so poorly built. I would say stay out of the rocket business and fix your airplanes.
Okay, I'm going to bring up something else.
Go ahead, fire away.
3 things. They're sort of related. One, South Africa and neighboring Zimbabwe. They were dominated by British and Dutch white people who kept down black people for many decades, most of the 20th century. Then blacks took over first Zimbabwe and then South Africa. And now in Zimbabwe, you had this nutcase, Mugabe, I think his name was. He just was thrown out of power. He said no more white people can't own farms in Zimbabwe anymore, only black people. And guess what happened? They were the breadbasket. They exported food. It was their biggest product. Now they can't even feed their own people because the white farmers, when they left, agricultural production went way down. Now, South Africa's doing something very similar. They're saying no more white people should own farmland, should only be black people. Now, so far there hasn't been civil war down there. And when the Dutch Afrikaners or something, as they call themselves, the whites, the Boers, or they were
Boers.
like that. The white superior, racist government, when they were overthrown with Nelson Mandela and the minister that won the Nobel Peace Prize there, Tutu, they managed to avoid a civil war. They didn't have, depredations against the whites who had kept down the blacks for so long, and that was good. I think he deserved a Nobel Peace Prize for that. And so now there isn't violence, but what you have is racism, only in the other direction.
Reverse racism?
No, it's racism, period. When you say...
I'm just saying it's reverse. It's against the whites by the blacks.
Okay, but it's racism.
Yeah.
And it's, and now it's not getting a lot of attention in the news, but it's happening, and it's dismaying. Second thing is Venezuelans. I mean, here you had the most prosperous country in South America with one of the world's largest proven oil reserves. Now people are starving to death there and leaving the country, going to Brazil, going to Colombia, people are, they're eating zoo animals, they're eating rats, they're going through dumpsters. It's an absolute disaster. Not getting a lot of attention.
Chavez is no longer there because he died. Maybe he was keeping it together.
There's a new guy in there that took over from Chavez.
He was elected.
The way Putin was, he was, supposedly. Okay, so now Trump congratulates Putin on his election.
Good job.
And the press is all over him. Obama had congratulated Putin in an earlier election.
Yeah.
No problem. So it's just a double standard when it comes to, how the presidents are covered by our left-wing biased press.
Wait a minute.
Okay, so that's it. Any comments?
So you got to say, Putin was elected for, I think, 6-year term? He didn't actually replace himself. He replaced somebody else.
Medvedev.
Okay.
Yeah, who was a puppet.
Who was sitting there. He sat there for 6 years while Putin got back in.
Putin was in charge all along. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. He's been in charge for 17 years, is it? 16 years? So the thing is, I can understand why. I think it's probably, a bad poker move for Trump to congratulate a guy when he's in the middle of an investigation by a special counsel who's trying to determine if Trump had the Russians involved with his people to get elected president. You couldn't say that about Obama. The Russians didn't elect him. Now, if you're being investigated by the special counsel for working with the Russians to get elected, it's not a good move to say, hey, I'm glad you won, buddy. You did a good job. But I mean, that's a mistake. I mean, you can't compare the two things. That's apples and oranges. I mean, Obama as a president saying, great election or whatever. I mean, and plus, just
I don't
after
see the difference.
After they poisoned a guy and his daughter in England with this special drug they used, and the guys were found on a bench foaming at the mouth. I mean, all this stuff took place, and then in the middle of it all this horror going on. He calls up and says, hey, congratulations on your election. And by the way, I don't want to say anything to you about the missiles hitting Florida while I'm on the phone with you.
But I agree with you. You say it's apples and oranges. To me, the one president congratulates Putin on an alleged election, and the other one does it. And it isn't that the president congratulates. That's routine stuff.
Yeah,
that's diplomacy, okay?
It's
the media's reaction to it. And that's it. I mean, when Obama did it, they had invaded Crimea, they had invaded Chechnya, they had they'd sent missile technology to Iran to be able to shoot down Israeli or American planes. They were intervening in Syria. They were doing all sorts of things. So you can't really say that what and also they were assassinating journalists, that were in Europe.
That's
and
one of their
they've been doing
favorite
that
hobbies,
for over 10 years. So I mean, it's
I
not
don't think
apples and oranges. It's apples and apples. Media it calls it apples and oranges.
You always make the media sound like this monolithic thing, and I see it
Monolithic, left-wing bias, yes.
I see it as a group of companies that want to make a lot of money, and most of them are owned by conservative Republicans. They control those companies, NBC, CBS, Fox News. Come on, they're all conservative right-wingers. They just happen to blow smoke one way one day, one way the other day, because they're making money, whichever way the smoke's blowing.
Here's how much of the media audience Fox News has. Here's how much the broadsheets like New York Times, Washington Post have, and NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN have.
They do.
Okay, so this is, when I say media, this part over here
not talking about
is
that
all
media.
left wing.
That
This
little-
part is right wing.
Yeah.
Yes. So the media effectively is this one.
But you're
not
not
this one.
counting radio in this, are you? I mean,
Okay, Rush Limbaugh, what does he get?
How about
20 million audience once a day.
How many
right?
conservative radio stations are there? You can drive from one end of this country to the other. Once you leave New England, you don't hear another liberal show until you get to San Diego. You know, you just made me chuckle the way you take this thing, give us a little stack. Radio stations, conservative right wing, liberal.
No, just the opposite.
What?
You think it's that way.
Of course
Well,
it is. You don't travel
You
enough.
think the media is overwhelmingly conservative.
Oh, God. With the radios? Oh, God, yes.
If you want to talk about AM radio, I'll concede the point. But the AM radio and Fox
That's what I'm
News
talking about.
cable channel together have very tiny audience. Most Americans get their news from the outlets that I mentioned, the broadsheet newspapers in the big cities and the alphabet networks on TV.
And what about
Vast majority of Americans get their news from there.
50%.
And they all have a left-wing bias.
A tremendous number of people get
And I
their
can
news
tell you
from cable.
how that is measured.
Computer. A lot of people, 50%
true.
of people get their news from computer.
That is threatening the monopoly, yes.
Of course
More
it
so,
is.
internet is threatening.
Now,
the
where is
monopoly.
that? Where is that? Conservative? Huh?
I haven't read any
You
measures.
don't see.
of
You
that.
haven't looked at it yet.
I look.
were you-
It hasn't presented itself.
You're behind. Let's get into some other little bit of newsy thing that come about in the last couple of weeks. Was the connection between Facebook and the 50 million people that it appears that were affected during the election because they had a deal going on with Cambridge Analytica, which took a tremendous amount of information, peddled it back, probably, which it looks like might have happened, to the Mercers through Bannon when he was running this company. Then Cambridge Analytica was caught on tape. Their owner, not their CEO,
Gotten a lot of media attention, hasn't it?
there's a tremendous amount of media attention because it may be the straw that breaks this Campbell's back in Washington.
What?
Because this stuff that went on with Cambridge Analytica,
Yeah.
with Bannon,
Through
Yeah.
Facebook.
through Facebook, of course. Now, Facebook has lost 20% of its value in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And this little Ruckenberg, whatever his name is, Rottenberg, I can't remember his name, is
Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg is going to appear before the legislature and explain what happened. But again, I don't believe anything they do in that legislature anymore after they vote.
In Congress?
But yeah, it's baloney.
Okay, I'd like to
Go on,
comment on that.
go on, because I want to hear your opinion of
Okay.
Cambridge Analytica. What's going on?
I'm going to compare that to what the scenario I just described when you had two presidents congratulating Putin on his election.
Yeah.
Okay, they both did the same thing. What was the media reaction to one as opposed to the other? All over Trump, like flies on you know what, and then never mentioned it with the guy Obama. Same thing with this Facebook situation. Obama's campaign in 2012 did exactly what Cambridge Analytica did in the 2016 election. They took information, profile information from Facebook, and they used it to their benefit to get Obama reelected in 2012.
Did they do it through Cambridge Analytica?
No,
Did they do it
they
themselves?
did it through other means, not Cambridge Analytica.
But they did it with an
But
American-
they took the same data from Facebook. Did the media object to that? Not at all. Yeah, well, they covered it, and they covered it to say, "Wow, what a brilliant campaign Obama has when he has all these computer people using social media to help him get reelected. Did a wonderful job." Did Facebook knew about it, and they said, "I guess we don't have any objection to that." But when Cambridge Analytica which was founded by Mercer
Foreign
and by
country.
Bannon, used it to get Trump elected. They're all over it. And
Because it's illegal.
Same thing. Because the left-wing media will do anything it can
Right.
to bash Donald Trump.
Okay.
And to prevent anybody from bashing President Obama because he was lily white.
Let me respond to your latest bash on Obama. First, I want to just remind you
I'm not bashing either one of them.
that Obama is no longer the president, and the mistakes he made will live and die with him. Okay, let's work on today. Let's not talk about the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. It's past. It's gone. It's done. Cambridge Analytica is a foreign company using foreigners to come into the United States, theoretically, dealing with people who were involved in the process
I think
for
it's
Trump.
an American company
For Trump.
based
No,
in
it's
Cambridge,
not. No,
isn't
no.
it?
This is the English version.
They
of it.
have many companies are
sent-
multinational.
They sent people here, foreigners here, to work in the election. It looks like they were working for Bannon into Trump. I don't know if that's true. I think our attorney, the investigator, Mullah, that's working on this, I'm sure he's going to find out who they talked to, when they talked to him, and what they were doing. So I think that's in the works. But to go back to what Obama did when he worked within the country by getting information through Facebook, that wasn't a problem.
Facebook is international.
I know that, but I'm saying no one said that Obama was working through a foreign company to do it. They were doing it
So
themselves.
that's your objection that there's foreign company
Because it's a
involvement in-
law, Tom. As much as we like the conservative side, we have to say
My
it's
point.
against the law.
My point
Yes.
was, all I did was compare that Obama did use Facebook for his political benefit in
Right.
2012. Media was fine with it. Congratulated him for doing it.
Right.
Trump used Facebook data for his reelection campaign in 2016. Media has the same reaction you do. Huge scandal.
I'm not saying it's a scandal.
Gino, I'm pointing out what media does. Media has a lot
Okay.
of power, and they exercise it for the benefit of the left and to the detriment of the right.
I see.
And I offered you two examples of that.
Okay, so what we're supposed to do then, according to your conservative way of thinking, don't report on it now.
No,
You didn't
It's a
report
free
on it
press.
then. Okay. I don't understand the logic. That's illogical because
what is logic?
it's illogical. If you can't say that Obama was working with a foreign corporation
I don't think- I
to
think-
send people into this
I don't
country,
think that's the issue.
that's what they're doing. That's what they did. They admitted it because the guys in those tapes admitted, we'll send some women from Ukraine in. We'll send some people in to do this and that. This guy with the red hair, the pink hair, who used to work there, basically says the same thing. Now, all I'm saying is, Mullah, you can bet your bippy that Mr. Mullah is going to get into this. And if they had meetings across the United States with various Trump associates through Bannon or whatever, he'll get to it. All I'm saying is the
I don't think there's
information.
anything he can't get to. He can get to anything he wants
can.
to. He has carte blanche to investigate anything he wants.
You know, when Mr. Clinton was tried and when he would pay a fine, $500,000, I think, to some lady in a trailer park. I can't
Paula
remember.
Jones?
Paula Jones. What he got convicted for in lying to the Congress wasn't that. What he got convicted was lying about Lewinsky.
I think it's a good example what you're bringing up. So let's compare. them.
Naturally.
You have a special counsel or a special prosecutor or whatever you want to call him.
Right.
And the
Inquisitor.
guy that went after Clinton, it was ostensibly to look into a land deal, the
Whitewater.
Whitewater
Right.
real estate deal. He then took it into sexual harassment and Monica Lewinsky and
Right.
Paula Jones and all of that, which he shouldn't have done.
Well,
In my
accordingly,
opinion, he should not
yeah.
have done that. It was taken. If we're going to have a special counsel, then they should be limited in focus to look. There's a crime. We need a prosecutor for it, and so there was a crime in Whitewater. People did go to jail for it, but the rest of it was ancillary, and it should never.
I
have
think
gone
what
there.
happened in that case was there was a tremendous outpouring, not among the voters, but among certain members of the Republican Party to nail Clinton.
I think you're right.
They had a special prosecutor. I think it was Welsh or something like that. He spent 2 or 3 years on it.
It wasn't him. It was somebody else.
He
But
spent 2 or
I
3
see his
years on
face.
Whitewater and all these other deals down in.
Yeah.
And he said there's no near there. That's basically what
No,
he
he
said.
didn't say that.
Yeah, there was
People
no-
did go to jail.
The guy from
Several
Whitewater
people.
and
Half a
that
dozen
girl who
people
wouldn't
went
give
to
any
jail.
information. Yeah, they went to jail. But as far as Clinton and his wife being involved, there was nothing that clung to them.
There was an indictment drawn up, but it was never actually.
So,
Done,
and
yeah.
because that girl wouldn't turn state's evidence. That I can't remember her name. She spent 2 years in prison.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. But anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
So then they came along. They decided they went to a court. I think it was New Jersey or Virginia, and a federal court, and they got another special prosecutor. That was the guy that's now out as a professor in California. I can't remember his name.
I know who you mean. Yeah.
He was special prosecutor from like 94 or 5 on to almost 2000.
But it was supposed to be under the same
Rubric.
umbrella.
Right.
Yeah.
But he picked up on the lawsuit by,
I can't remember.
was
who
it Walsh,
It doesn't matter. We both know
Anyway, yeah.
who we mean. Yeah.
so anyway, then he came in and he went after the Paula Jones thing, the girl with the big hair thing, and then Monica Lewinsky thing.
Okay, so now Mueller is supposed to be going after collusion between Russia and
That was the
Trump in the
original-
2016
Right.
election. But now he's ranging far afield
You know why?
into lots of other things.
You know
For
why?
the same reason, I think it's a political
No.
witch hunt.
No, it
Both of
isn't,
them
because
were
you know what
political
he's
witch hunts.
finding? What he's finding is, and that's why I think Trump didn't release his tax records, all those things are now germane, because those things pertain to who you paid, where the money came from to do this and that. That's the only thing he's facing because of this stormy weather, whatever the heck her name is, Stormy Daniels. What he's facing is the fact that the money that she was paid, if it came from campaign contributions, then that's against the law. So that's what they're hitting on. It wasn't that having sex with Monica Lewinsky was against the law.
But it had
What was
nothing to do with the Whitewater real estate deal.
No,
did
it did. It
So
brings
that's
up-
my point.
Yes.
That,
But-
that a special prosecutor should be limited to a particularly identified crime. We have probable cause to believe a crime was committed. Let's put the prosecutor on that particular crime. Don't go over here to these other crimes. And Clinton hadn't even committed. It's not a crime to do what he did to Paula Jones or to Monica Lewinsky or to any of the other
Right.
women that came.
Right.
Well, it might have been for some of them, but they never went into. The point is, okay, those might have been improprieties, but they're not. That's not your charge. Stay away from it.
The problem is,
same thing
if
that Mueller's doing now.
If a prosecutor discovers in his travels that I'm looking for people that talk, and you find out that, what's his name, the guy that ran his campaign for a while, he was dealing with Russia and all these, the Ukraine and all
Whose
that.
campaign?
Trump. He was the head of the Trump campaign for a while, Manafort. Right? When you investigating that, he happened to be the campaign manager.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're investigating, well, what did he do?
And then you find other crimes.
You find
unrelated.
them.
Right?
You can't avoid them. You can't ignore
Yes,
them,
you
and
can,
then you're
because-
illegal.
Yes, you can. And the Fourth
How can
Amendment, because the Fourth Amendment states,
Illegal search and seizure?
yes, that is, no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation and particularly describing the place to be seized and the persons or things to
Right,
be
right.
seized, the place
Right.
to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. And if you say, okay, I think this guy is dealing in OxyContin pills. So you get a warrant to go search that place for OxyContin pills.
selling
You happen to
marijuana.
see machine guns over here. You can't do anything about them. You have to get
You hurry
another.
back
You
and
have
get
to then
another
get another
warrant.
warrant. Exactly right. Exactly right.
That's
so
true.
yeah, now
That's true.
It is true.
But,
so what's the
that's-
difference between what if Mueller finds that Manafort laundered some money, which evidently there's evidence that he did while he was, then okay, do it, but not not under the same umbrella
You're
that
probably
you're
right.
going after Trump.
That stuff may never serve. You may be right about that. The problem is, in the real world of politics, things don't happen that way.
No, they don't.
That's
That's
the
unfortunate.
ideal way. That's like we're talking about this budget they put through last week. Yeah, the ideal way is Congress votes on it. They decide, they pick it all apart, they send it up, and he signs it, and it's gone. They're not doing it that way anymore.
Okay.
We have a different government. See, you're longing back to the old days. You know what you need to get? Some quill pens. You really need a quill pen for your writings because that's where you are right now. You're in the quill pen days.
About?
You're dreaming of the world the way it was done when they did this Declaration of Independence on parchment. Now it's on computers.
I like to go by the Constitution.
I know you
had
do.
to take an oath when you were a selectman, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You know, to protect the Constitution of the United States.
Absolutely.
Preserve, protect, and defend it. And I did too. And so anybody that takes any
Doesn't-
public office has to do that. To become a cop, you have to do that. To become a soldier, you have to do that.
Can you remember when
So,
adultery was considered
That's what
a crime?
I think. I believe in that. I believe in
Yeah,
the U.S.
I know you do.
Constitution.
I know you
And that
do.
is what that makes me back in quill pen days, then I plead guilty.
Here's the
Yes.
problem. Do you remember when adultery was considered a crime? It was a
Was it?
criminal act.
I guess a crime. You mean people went to
was a
jail for
criminal act,
committing?
yes.
I know it was grounds for divorce,
Yeah.
but
Grounds
I
for a
don't
lot
know
of
that
things.
it was.
And I mean-
I don't think people went to jail for it.
I don't know. Maybe if you cross the state lines with somebody or something. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
there was shame, the Scarlet Letter, all that.
Yeah, I
but
know.
I don't
Maybe it
know about
wasn't.
actually going to jail
I
for
always
it.
thought it was a crime. I guess it's not. Because, boy, we have a lot of
Maybe
people in
I'm not
jail.
saying it wasn't, but I just don't remember any evidence of it. But what's your point?
No, I was just thinking about that because I guess they can ignore a crime if they see it because of the Fourth Amendment, but that'll never happen. That's not the real world. I mean, it really isn't. It's nice theory.
One thing is, there was a crime committed in Whitewater. There's probable cause to believe there was, and it turns out
Yeah.
that there actually was because people were prosecuted and
That was
went
that
to jail.
Jim, whatever his name
What's
was.
the crime? Collusion with Russia? Where is there evidence of a crime for that?
They're building it. Who knows? I think they're going to have it.
How long is it going to take?
Well, it took them with Clinton. It took almost 8 years. So
But then that wasn't the same. It wasn't Whitewater, was it?
it's only been since May of last
There's
year.
other
It's
stuff.
not even a full year yet.
Oh, I think it is.
It'll
When
be in
was
May.
he appointed?
It was May or
It was
June.
when Comey got fired, and then Comey leaked something to the New York Times and set up Rosenstein to appoint the special counsel.
Right.
And Rosenstein is still not. Rosenstein has the power
He
to
does.
rein in
He
Mueller
does.
to say, don't go over there to these. Don't never mind about Manafort's money laundering. Leave that to some other prosecutor.
The problem, see what the part of the problem is here. The meeting at the White House, not the White House, the Trump Tower, that took place with the son, the woman from Russia, all these
Yes.
other people in the room.
Yes.
Bannon himself said that there's no way Trump wasn't at that meeting. And that's what Bannon said. He said, he's right on the next floor.
Wasn't at the meeting.
Yeah, he was there. He was in the building at the time. And he
Probably
said
in the building.
Bannon said there's no way he'd missed the meeting. Now, that was something Bannon just said when he was shooting off his mouth a couple of months ago.
I remember.
But the problem with that meeting was it leads them down leads them down a lot of rabbit trails.
How much time we got, boss?
10 minutes. It leads them down a lot of rabbit trails that lead to other things, like the son-in-law. The son-in-law who's
Jared
looking
Kushner.
for almost $1 billion for that disaster he bought in New York. He's been talking to people in Yemen. He's been talking to the Saudi Arabians. He was talking to the Russians.
He was there at the meeting, so
He was there at the meeting, and probably that's what Mueller's probably picking up on. All that kind of background stuff, all that background noise.
Well, if it's related to possible collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign, then good. That's what he's supposed to be doing.
But I agree with you. I don't disagree with you that I think this sexual stuff should be out the window. I mean, if the person's a pervert, okay, someday they'll find that out and they'll put them on trial for that. But just let that stuff go. That's not important.
While we were talking over breakfast, you were criticizing some conservative for bringing up Clinton's sexual peccadillos and comparing them to
Mark Levin.
Okay, Mark Levin, comparing them to Trump's. Trump probably did have sex with this porn star, whenever she was. I think he denies it, but he probably
It was
did.
unprotected, don't forget. We know that
I
because
don't
of
want
the
to
media.
know the details.
Okay.
But he probably did, right? I mean, he's a playboy, so whatever. But what the pattern that emerged is that when powerful people, and most of I probably read 11 or 12 biographies of the Kennedys, John and Robert and Ted and Joseph Sr. and all that. And they were all huge libidos. I mean, they all,
Goes
there's
with
a
the
movie coming
territory.
up, Chappaquiddick, about Ted's libido and so forth. So it's, okay, but they were overlooked. If it wasn't cool, media knew about it.
Right.
But they just, no, okay, no, never mind. All right, so then Carter probably, did Johnson? Johnson also did. Okay?
He was a character.
He was. He had a huge libido.
Nixon, no.
Did Nixon?
No,
Probably
no,
not. Did Carter? Probably
No.
not. Jerry Ford? We have no evidence.
No,
all
I
right?
doubt
But
it.
then along comes Reagan. Maybe, maybe not.
No,
He
I
was in
don't think-
Hollywood.
I don't
Probably
think
not.
so, no.
George H.W. Bush?
A little bit.
Maybe a little bit.
You met
but not.
Barbara.
But then Bill Clinton? Yep,
Oh,
he
well,
certainly
yeah.
did.
Double.
Donald Trump? Yep, he certainly did. So
Donald
people,
Trump? I don't. Oh yeah, Donald Trump. I think of George W. Bush. He didn't.
Obama? Not a lot of evidence. for that.
No, no way.
So, therefore, at least half of them
Yeah,
have enormous libidos, right,
Yeah.
of the presidents during our lifetime.
sure.
So it kind of goes with the territory,
Of
doesn't
course
it?
it does.
Yeah.
Who
So
was the guy that got not Garfield? Who was it? Oh my God. He had a girlfriend in the broom closet or something. She got
Who's this?
pregnant.
Garfield?
One of our presidents. I can't think of it. God, losing my mind. Anyway,
we don't hear about him, except maybe Jefferson had an affair with a slave and maybe produced some children.
And wasn't
and
Jackson accused of being married to a prostitute or something?
Yeah,
And he
that's
wound up
true.
shooting, having a duel with somebody. Yeah, I mean, this has
he did.
been going on forever.
Not a prostitute. He was
He
accused
caught-
of marrying a woman who hadn't
Hadn't
yet been divorced from
exactly,
this other guy. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, what do you make of South Korean leader Kim Jong-un meeting with Chinese President Yip Yang? I can't pronounce it. Ostensibly discussing diplomatic developments on the Korea Peninsula. Would you assess this as a positive development or a worrying one?
Positive.
You think it's positive?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I
Because
think the Chinese got it by the
Trump
shorts.
is putting the squeeze on both the Chinese and the North Koreans.
Yeah.
And he's doing it at multiple levels, not just by, like this tariff thing, for
Yeah.
example, with China, and also on steel and steel and aluminum. Much of it comes from China through South Korea, through Germany, through Canada, through Mexico, into the United States. So he's really squeezing them from many levels,
Yeah.
and I think they're starting to.
We'll see what let's see what
I
happens
see
to
it
the
as
economy.
positive development.
Let's see what happens to the economy, balance of trade, and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
that's
that's a little concerning. But
as
go ahead.
long as I've been alive, I can remember them talking about the balance of trade deficits. We have had about World War II. We bailed out the world.
Yep,
The Marshall Plan paid for everything. What do you need built? We'll build it. We built it.
that's true.
We should have taken a lease on those buildings, a long 100-year lease, okay? We owned everything in Europe. We built Dresden back. We rebuilt it. They didn't have any money.
That's right, we did.
Who built Berlin back up? We did.
Yep,
Our money, okay?
yep.
All the money that was invested in
Brilliant move. Unprecedented in history, really.
What?
What
Oh,
we did
Unbelievable.
at the end of World War
South
II.
America, we had the Agency for International Development, which was a CIA project my cousin worked for, but they were down there building South America for years, all under our auspices. Now my argument is, if somebody else like China or Russia wants to take that job over, let them do it. They'll go broke the way we did. Anyway, Trump legal team,
Yeah.
where were they going? He's
Well-
left with this guy Sokoloff.
One guy who had an unfortunate name, I can't remember.
Sokoloff.
Sokolov, he's still there.
He's the minister there.
He's
fought-
still there.
Yeah, he's fought criminal Christian cases for years. But
Yep, he has.
He's not a real lawyer.
Yeah, he is. He's argued before the Supreme Court several times.
DeGenova and his wife can't come.
The guy that left, I forget his name now, but he just left, and they took in Joe DeGenova.
He can't come in.
What do you mean he can't come in?
He's got a conflict of interest. Him and his wife aren't coming. They can't make it.
I don't.
Yeah.
Why can't they make it?
They can't. They've got a conflict of interest somehow, and they can't work for the president. That's the latest and greatest. See, you got to stay ahead of this stuff.
Well, all right.
You know, we're going to do a live show.
I like DeGenova. Too bad. I didn't hear what you said. I think
Yeah.
I would have, because
Yep, they can't come. You know his wife, Tenzin.
Tensing.
Tensing,
Yes, I do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't come. So I don't know who he's got left. He's got, what's his name? Can't
He's
remember.
got a few.
The guy with the white beard, whatever his name is.
Dowd.
And he's got Dowd. Is it
Dowd is the one that just retired.
Dowd left. Yeah, it's the other guy,
that's right.
Lefty Grove or something. And then they got Sokolow.
Sokolov.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he can't get anybody else.
No, not Sokolov.
Yeah.
No,
They got
he was
him.
another. He was a guy
a
that used to do
conservative
commercials
Christian.
on TV. I know who you mean.
Sokolow.
Is it? All right,
Yeah,
maybe.
Sokolow. Sokolow?
There's some kind of
Sokolov?
Eastern European name. Yeah.
Sokolov. Whatever.
Maybe. I got confused.
He fought before the Supreme Court, yeah, but for the Christian rights cases.
We
and
haven't
stuff.
done good news, bad news, when it's
Oh, let's have the good news. Come on.
All right,
Throw
good
it out
news.
there.
The good news is, I was going to say that Joe Geneva was hired by Trump. Now, I'll have to check when I
Preface
get
that.
home.
Preface that.
Because I like Joe Geneva. I think he'd be very good on the
You
team.
do, huh?
But go ahead. So that
Well,
was my
that's
good news. My
fine.
bad news, that the national debt jumped $1 trillion in only 6 months. Now, I think that's unprecedented, because especially with this deal that was done last Friday, that is horrendous bad news.
I think what the good news, I had the good news that we had $1.3 trillion in new debt.
Good news?
Yeah, well, it's not really good news. It's bad news. I had the same thing. That it's bad news. 1.3, and the whole point is, their numbers for the future are all promulgated on 4.5% growth.
Man, I hope it's right.
And we are not growing. And if he goes and targets China and these places for their products, all the prices are going to go up in Walmart's. Walmart's a big business, and they sell all that junk from China, okay, that we have to have. And if their prices go up 8 and 10%, who does that hurt? It doesn't hurt the guy living in a $65 million
That's
estate.
the bad news or good news?
It's a combination of everything.
All right. So that's
Interest
it.
rates are rising. The Dow has been dropping. It went down 700 points in one day last week. It goes back up.
Yeah.
I see,
That worry you?
yes, it does.
Okay, you're an
Is it?
investor, so I'm not.
I'm not an investor. I used to invest. I can't invest anymore. I'm on fixed income.
Okay.
Thank God my
All right,
parents.
winners and losers.
Yes.
For my winner, I don't know who it is. It's an anonymous writer, but I read it the other day and it really jumped out. It said, what is the difference between your average Trump supporters and your average Obama supporters? And it was that Trump supporters sign their checks on the front. Obama supporters sign their checks on the back. I thought that was brilliant. If you
So
think
they
about
get a
it.
check, and Trump supporters are paying for the bills?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well,
I
Yeah,
like
all
that.
right.
I thought it was good. When you can encapsulate great ideas into one little vignette
Yeah,
like
well, you
that,
know
I
what,
think
how
it's
much-
clever. It's clever, whether
it's
you agree
also
with it or
called
not.
it's also called hospital because the people that have all the money are not hurting, and never will be.
My losers,
Go ahead.
my big loser would be Stephen Hawking. Not only because he died, but which was probably a blessing. I mean, the poor guy was just twisted up into a pretzel
Yeah.
by ALS.
But he.
But he was, I think he was, talk about overrated. Now,
What
I
do you
don't.
mean overrated? You.
Well, just let me finish now.
Good God
then
Almighty.
Then you can jump
All
on
right,
it,
go
all
ahead.
We got 1 minute. Okay, I think he might have been brilliant, but he was brilliant in things that I don't understand, so I have to leave that to those who do and say he was brilliant. But his other stuff, that he opined on all kinds of other stuff,
Yeah.
which to me was, pretty harebrained. Like
What
he
I
was
don't understand is-
anti-nuclear, anti-nuke, pro-Hezbollah, pro-Hamas.
Who, he was?
Theology is unnecessary. He was an atheist. I mean, I think he was a weirdo. But that's enough. Okay,
All right, so you don't like him. You
we
didn't
got
like
less
him.
than a minute.
I think the man was brilliant. He also somehow managed to have an affair.
He
This
did.
is what I don't understand. When he dumped
Had to
his,
be a prostitute.
he dumped his first wife. No, she wasn't.
Was it
she
Stormy Daniels?
No, she was a healthcare worker or something. And
Really felt sorry
yeah, he
for
had
him?
an affair. I don't know how he did that, and I admire her as someone that because I can't do that. I know
Yeah.
these are bad times we're having. But anyway, I go back home and watch my replays. Stormy Daniels.
You wanna go back and watch that again,
She
too?
made a movie called "It Happened One Night."
Really?
No, that's not true.
Oh.
Hey, thanks for coming in, Tom. It was a great show.
Yeah,
See you
good
folks
show.
next time. Same bad time,
Indeed.
same bad
See
channel.
ya.